I know many of you are at home, and those who are joining us on YouTube also, we are very happy. My work here is very simple. I believe we have an interview with the creative scene team, and with their team leader, Bridget is here in the house, and we're going to be doing that shortly. And then even Brian is also here, and he's going to be sharing with us his insights, his journey, his stories in the world of VR and gaming. But before that, we have Kenji here on stage, who's going to give us mtumbuizo mmoja with his nyatiti, and I'll also ask him at the end of his song to tell us how we can get to listen to some of his works, perhaps on his YouTube channel. So we are very happy for joining us. So let's give Kenji 3 minutes or so for his performance, and then we jump straight into the interview with Creative Scene KE. Asanteni sana for joining us, and have a good time. Thanks.
Happy Mashujaa. Happy Mashujaa to you all. I hope you're having a great time. It's really Mashujaa Day. Na leo imekuwa ni kama imekuwa mapema sana. Naona kila mtu ameingia ndani ya nyumba. I hope wherever you are, you're having a happy Mashujaa. Thank you so much. I go by the name Kenny Gaku, Kenny G. I'm going to play some numbers today. ni leo, ni leo, asema kesho ni muongo, asema kesho ni muongo. Ni leo, ni leo, asema kesho ni muongo, asema kesho ni muongo. Shemeji ana ng'ombe, shemeji ana ng'ombe, nami na ng'ombe zangu, nami na ng'ombe zangu, kamwambia tuchanganye, anasema atakie, kamwambia tuchanganye, anasema atakie. This is our culture, and we are one. Anything must not divide us. Ni leo, ni leo, asema kesho ni muongo, asema kesho ni muongo. Ni leo, ni leo, asema kesho ni muongo. Happy Mashujaa to you all. Asema kesho ni muongo. Thank you so much. Thank you. Kumbe mlikuwa mnanisikiza.
And at the end, when we call you back, nataka kusikia your flute, si ndio? When you call you back at the end of the podcast. Okay, sawa sawa. I would like to call, you guys can come now. Please come on stage as we put the mics in place. For those who have just joined us, today is the second day of Kesho Afrika, and this is the first session of the day. We have another session in the evening called the Afro Renaissance Experience. We're going to have two artists and creatives. We have Native Nairobi, aka Marvin Masharia, and Stephen Ogalo, who calls himself Sogalo. They will be having a session where we'll be doing live painting, book reading, a little bit of poetry, and a presentation on their project, Afro Renaissance Art. So be sure to catch that. However, for now, this session is courtesy of Creative Scene KE under the leadership of Bridget Wainaina, right here on stage, who is going to host the interview with Brian. So Bridget Wainaina is a curious creative mind, a graphic designer by day, and a digital explorer by night, perhaps a digital creator by night. She is a host and creator of the Creative Scene KE. As I said, we have partnered with them to host this session. And Creative Scene KE is a platform for creatives to connect and learn from the journey of others. But even more important is our guest, Brian Njenga. Brian Njenga is a 3D artist, a video game VR developer, and the co-founder of Team 2 Interactive. One of the games developed by the team was awarded a prestigious title of Kalasha Game of the Year last year, 2022. So we're going to have around 1 hour of an interview and an interaction. And later on, I think we're going to look at the audience online so that if they have any questions, I can throw them to you. So over to you, and we are very happy that you could take the time so that we can share, interact, and learn from each other. Asante sana.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I loved the opening as well. That was really beautiful. For those who don't know me, my name is Bridget Wainaina. I am the host of a platform that allows creatives to learn from the journey of others. The platform is called the Creative Scene KE. You can find us on all social media platforms. We have recorded a couple of episodes. This is currently our 9th episode. We've had conversations with different creatives within the digital platform. So from digital illustration, animation, brand identity and packaging. So if you wish to learn more about that, you can check out our YouTube channels for further conversations. This is quite different. So this is the first time we're actually diving into the VR field. And I am really glad to have the first guest on this podcast within that field. His name is Brian Njenga. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, I've been following your work for a while, and I felt like your work connects with the theme for this event today. So that's why I felt like having you today, your knowledge is going to expound more on the Kenyan cultural activities through mostly technology, because you're trying to share stories through technology. That's VR, animation, and VR gaming as well. Mm-hmm. So maybe we can start by how you got into this field, because you're a 3D artist, a game developer, and a VR developer as well. So which one came first?
I don't know if it's... Okay, so thank you. How did I get into it first?
Mm-hmm.
I come from a background of advertising, mostly working with agencies and branding. It slowly pivoted when I got accepted into the State of the Art program, which was like a collaboration between Black Rhino VR and Goethe Institute.
Okay.
So it was about teaching a group of talented creatives like to extend your creativity using XR. So in this case, we were using VR. And by the end of the program, everyone was required to have something to showcase at the exhibition.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I got in, and I used to have a bit of understanding of game engines, but not that in depth. But thanks to the team at Black Rhino, Flair, Stephen Kimani, they really helped onboard us into game engines and developing interactive experiences.
Okay.
That's I think about 2.5 to 3 years back.
2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
So before that, what were you doing? Because I feel like VR just came in recently, or it was adopted recently, mostly in the Kenyan countries. So before that, what were you doing?
Before that, I was doing a lot of freelance work, graphic design, branding, packaging, and like layout design for events and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And recently, was it 2021 or 2022? You won the Game of the Year award.
It's 2022.
2022.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How did it feel?
It felt really good because first off, we were really having fun.
Okay.
So we didn't expect it to like spiral into something really big. So my partner and I, Ian, we got in touch with Ukwenza VR, and they had this amazing idea because they use VR to educate children about economical or just social impact, values, and related topics. So they wanted us to build a game and that could teach people about garbage organization and the importance of garbage sorting and recycling and building a better world. So Ian and I, we got together and we decided on a direction of how best to do this.
Okay.
And during the course of about 2 to 3 months, we got it done.
That's the game. Was it a VR game?
Yes, it was a VR game.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's talk about Team 2.
Yeah.
That's you're the co-founder, yeah?
Yeah.
So you co-founded that with the guy you mentioned, huh?
Yeah, with Ian Okinda.
So this was in which year?
How we met with Ian was actually really interesting. We met during a game jam sponsored by Jiwe. At the time, it was, I think it was shortly after the State of the Art program. So we were diving deep into the game development space. So we were really surprised because I think we came in second.
Okay.
So it like strengthened our resolve kidogo, but not too much. So we ended up doing a lot of game jams after. So we did about 3 more game jams and we won all of them. The recent one being the, I think we won last year's AR/VR Africa. We became like the top 3 developers in Kenya. So we were selected to go into a boot camp for 4 months, the beginning of this year. So which we ended up developing our own internal IP for VR. So that's how we met with Ian during the game jam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Now, something I really want to understand before we even dive into the projects that you've been working on. What I really want to understand is how do these VR games come into life? What's the process? How do you create a game from? Take us through, because that's a field I'm trying to understand or learn, and having you here is actually it's the perfect time. So maybe you can take us through the process of creating a VR game.
Most people, I'd say a lot of people have their own personal touch that pulls them in. For me specifically is I already had a foundation in 3D design, 3D development, modeling and optimization, and I really loved video games from when I was a kid. So it wasn't that much of a leap for me to get into it. It was more of an interest. So I didn't see, at the time, it didn't look like something profitable. It looked like something you could do as a hobby. So with time, we started looking into it more seriously, especially when we started making a bit of headway with the game jams, and we started taking it more seriously. So first off, for me, it starts with that foundation of 3D design, and next comes the understanding of game engines. So that's it's not too far off. If you have a foundation of 3D design, you get to understand 3D engines, you get to understand the formats they take and the outputs they can give. And I had that strength. I still can't really code. I can't code to save my life, but that's where we met with Ian Okinda. He's an amazing coder. So our partnership was just like perfect because what he lacked, I had. What I lacked, he had. So it was like a perfect collaboration. So we ended up trying a few things, a few ideas, R&D, having fun along the way. And we ended up actually finishing stuff we actually started. And yeah.
Wow,
it grew.
that's amazing. Quite a journey. I feel like from your story, you felt like you guys had that belief that this is going to be something.
No. No, we didn't believe in it that much at the beginning. Yeah.
But looking forward, you've achieved a lot from that.
Yeah, definitely, and learned a lot as well.
And learned.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the recent project you worked on. Let me remember the name. The Heritage Project. Yes. Let's talk about that. It's quite interesting because what you guys are trying to do is sort of like replicate cultural artifacts that were, should I say, stolen? Or I should say stolen.
Yes, among other things.
Okay, stolen and taken to European countries, which they're being held in their museums instead of being here in Kenya. So take us from when you decided to take up this initiative to, okay, let's start from there. When did you decide to take up this initiative?
That was during the State of the Art program, SOTA, the one that we went through with Black Rhino and Got Institute. So like I mentioned, like everyone was required to showcase something for the exhibition. So my choice was to digitize artifacts located in foreign museums that were inaccessible to us. I was really green in the field of restitution. So in regards to how many objects were taken, what were taken, how accessible they are, etc. Thanks to Black Rhino and Gote, they really helped connect me to people who helped actualize the project. Actually, it wouldn't be possible without them. So it started off with me trying to get access or just start communication with the museums and see whether we could build something together. It was a bit hard. So Gote helped connect me with a collective called Shaped Collective. They are responsible for creating the largest database of stolen artifacts. It's called the IIP, International Inventories Program. It's a collaboration between the Shift Collective, the Nest Collective, and the National Museum of Kenya, and a few museums around the world. So they essentially built a database. Right now, I think it's totaling to about 32,000 Kenyan objects that are located in foreign museums around the world. So the thing that really drove me to the project was not only if you are lucky enough to find yourself in one of the countries, Cologne or whatever, and you could go to some of the museums, you still wouldn't have access to those artifacts because they really have a really large library and they can't display everything. So most of our stuff are still in storage. So they're not accessible to them, they're not accessible to us. So we are trying to find a way that we could learn about them. Because the thing is, we slowly realized, or I slowly realized, is the longer we take to talk about them or to teach the youth about them, the higher the chance of them disappearing across time. Because if we don't care about them now, our kids will care about them less. So it was really kind of a drive.
So if they have a database of all these artifacts, why don't they just bring them back?
So the database, it's a political question. And it's more often than not, every time you try to interact with them, they will give you an answer that as an African will offend you. So some of the last responses was like, you don't have the skills or the capacity to take care of them. Even without giving a response, just taking that answer is a bit uphill.
Yeah, true.
So considering they hold the power, they hold the artifacts, it's still a bureaucratic process.
That's quite disturbing. So actually lost my track there. Okay. Next question. Was this just how's it said? Was it a one-time project, or is it something that you're looking to expound further?
At the time when we were developing it 2 years back, it was meant to be a one-time project.
Okay.
But the deeper I got into it during that same project, it got just deeper and deeper and deeper. It wasn't even just, there was a lot context-wise. It wasn't even just about objects. There were bodies of people that were taken. There are narratives, there are plants, there are animals. It's so diverse. So what happened is we digitized 5 objects at a time. And those objects, I ended up I modeled them from reference images for the first project, which were executed really well. They were optimized, and the performance was really well, ran really well in the VR headset. As the project continued and I got introduced to a few people in the space, we ended up digitizing a lot more. So the next phase, there was a collaboration between the German government, the RJM Museum in Cologne would send high-resolution images, and we would use photogrammetry to stitch them together. That meant you use the images with artificial intelligence to make a 3D model. Okay. It's a very high detailed model. So once we had that data set, because it was a 3D data set, you could do a lot of things with it. One of them, you could use the assets in game design and game development. The next one, you could 3D print the artifact. So that's what the National Museum was focusing on. Their primary reason was to visit communities with these artifacts, to educate them in a way, and also in them get educated, so get more context. Because with the IIP database, as diverse as it is, it doesn't have a lot of information in regards to the objects. So it would be like you'd have a canvas tool you wouldn't be told about what it does, how it was used. It would just be labeled Canvas tool, belonged to the Canva community, and maybe it was made of a certain type of wood. That's it. So the context was really missing. Yeah.
Okay, and you said you were using images to recreate them digitally.
Yeah.
And you paired that with AI.
Yeah.
How did that work? Because if you're saying AI doesn't have enough information on these artifacts, how was it able to form the image from just the image that you were sent?
So how an AI works is it needs a data set to give you another data set, right? So we give it images and tell it to use these images to recreate a 3D version of it. So luckily there are a lot of softwares that have come up over time that enable artists to do just that. So you feed it the high resolution images, it gives them back to you. But it will give you a 3D image, and it will be really dense and really high resolution. More often than not, it could work in a lot of things, maybe for 3D printing, but you'd still need to do a lot of cleanup. So to get it to work in a game, let alone VR, a lot of work needs to be done. So when you get a file, it's going to range to about, one object would be about 500 MB, sometimes could be a GB plus, depending on the size. That is really, really big for an interactive experience. So you have to optimize it, but still retain as much quality as possible. Yeah.
When I planned this conversation, I didn't think we'd get this deep into recreating these artifacts. I saw one of the artifacts that you recreated. I think it was a shovel. I'm not sure if it's a shovel.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one you posted, and it looked exactly like the image. So I was wondering whether it was done through the normal modeling, like how you'd model or sculpture something. I thought that's how you guys did it, but from what you've said, it's a lot. It's mind blowing actually. I didn't think in Africa okay, I'm really sorry to say this, but I didn't think that we were really that into the technological space, Ivo. But from how you've put it, I'm impressed.
For the first one, where we did it under state of the art with Black Rhino, because of the time constraints and because the network was still really new, and we still hadn't developed a conversation with the foreign museums, I ended up modeling and texturing the first 5 objects manually. That's just the traditional modeling, the traditional texturing method. So the hoe you're talking about is a Gaia hoe. That one was textured and made manually.
Okay.
But so we added about 10 plus objects in the next round, because last year we did a heritage project version 2.0. So we added 10 more objects, we added a bit of music, and we made the environment a bit more futuristic African.
Okay, remind me, they were just for display, or you were using them on maybe a game? Or
So what happens is, for the heritage project, we use them as an education tool. So you get to interact with the objects. When you hold an object in VR, you can look at it. You don't have the same restraints like with traditional museums. You can see the threads, you can see the detail or the workmanship that went into it, which is unlike what you can get in the museums, right? So it was a really good way of interacting with your history.
That's interesting. Wow. I think I'm starting to visualize it more now that we are talking, because before we met, this space was a bit vague, but now from talking to you, things are getting clearer. Okay, let's move to the next question. I think from that conversation, you've answered most of the questions I had in mind. We can move on to you are currently working on a project. The most recent project you're working on. It was a collaboration with the the embassy of France.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk about that?
Through collaboration for their Forum Africa exhibition that just ended a week back. So what we chose to do is tell the story of the Mogumo tree because of the misconceptions around it. And very few people left know about where it came from and the significant importance it plays specifically to the Kikuyu people. So we created a 9-minute animated video with a collaboration with a ton of Kenyan artists, from Mercy Bano, who was on the music, to Marcus Kiogora, to Flair in Black Rhino, to a lot of talented artists. Yeah,
that's amazing. So how did it come to you guys talking about the Mogumo tree? What brought up this project idea?
We brainstormed a lot with Black Rhino in regards to the story we wanted to tell. We had a lot of stories. We had the story of the Irimo, Luanda Magere, a ton of stories to pick from. But this one was specifically, it had things about it that I thought were really interesting and exciting to talk about. Like, for example, in the creation mythology of the Kikuyu people, the first place where they settled down is, they were told by Mogai, like, you go settle by the Mogumo tree. It's where their history started, our history started. So anything you wanted to do, you wanted to do a sacrifice, you wanted to ask for help, you always did it on the Mogumo tree, right? So not only that, it was also used as stories to tell children. So I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the story of, you go around a Mogumo tree a few times, you turn it to the opposite sex. So we found that very, very fascinating as a story to tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're doing this using extended reality?
The same format, but the output was different. So it wasn't to be experienced in VR, it was to be experienced like in a 360 environment. So how it was exhibited in France was, it was a room with LED panels and it was a 360 environment. So the whole room was covered in LED panels.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is it like the sphere in, I don't know, come on, in New York?
I think it's in Vegas. It's not as fancy, but yes.
But same idea.
Same idea. So the moment you walk into the room, except the roof, all the walls are covered in LED panels. So there's always like stuff happening around you. It's really immersive. Yeah.
Were you there, Ama? You just shared the projects?
Unfortunately, I couldn't go.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm impressed. All right, so from all the projects you've worked on, even personal projects, which one will you say is your favorite?
Oh, you can't pick.
You can't pick.
I can't pick. I'm sorry. That's the problem. I really love what I do, and not all the projects we've done have like had a success yet, but I still really do love them. One of the ones that's dearest, I'd say first would be the Heritage Project, because it's not a one-off project. It's something, right now, it's a lifetime project, considering the amount of stuff we're trying to digitize and tell the people about. The next one would be a VR project we developed earlier this year that aims to educate people on how to communicate in sign language. So you get to wear the VR headset and it has motion tracking. So you get to do the KSL signs and the game responds to your actions. So you learn the alphabet and then it takes you like into a restaurant setting where you can order tea, bread, to see if you're accurate.
It gives you the practical setting where you can use what you've learned.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. All right. This conversation is it's really opened my mind to so many things that I didn't think Africa is doing at the moment. I think people need to know that it's being done and there are people doing it and we are heading somewhere. It's really great to know that there are people in that field and they're doing amazing projects. I've also seen, there's also Black Rhino doing a couple of projects here and there. And I think most projects, they usually partner with like this Goethe Institute there's the Embassy of France. So how do these collaborations help you guys develop your projects?
They help in several ways, so many ways. They broaden your scope. You learn so much. You get to work with artists from different disciplines, learn how they work, learn why they work. And then you get to make something that is bigger than you, even bigger than all of you, because it's something that none of you could accomplish individually. So you get to have a respect and appreciation for a lot of fields that maybe you didn't even know how they work. Yeah. So they even help build me as an artist. Yes.
And what will you say has been the biggest impact when it comes to collaboration? Because actually you mentioned it when you partnered with your other co-founder.
Yeah.
You mentioned that your skills complemented each other because there's something you didn't know that he knows and vice versa.
Yeah.
So aside from that, are there any other benefits of collaboration?
Yeah, they help you be a bit more ambitious. Yeah. So sometimes when you're collaborating, especially like maybe in pre-production, sometimes the project looks larger than life or even impossible to achieve. When you achieve it with the help of a lot of people, it gives you the confidence to tackle even bigger things or even things you are scared of approaching. Yeah.
All right. And so if I want to get into the extended reality field, what skills do I need to learn or what tools do I need to have in order to get into it?
Okay, personally, I'm a bit biased with the 3D space because I really love it. But that is a really big advantage if you can get that, because it's 3D but interactive 3D. Not that you can't do stuff with 2D animation and stuff, but you need to have an understanding of 3D depth and how it interacts with the space. But having a foundation as a digital artist, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what tools do you need? Okay, for 3D, I believe it's definitely a desktop and the obvious. But when it comes to VR, what tools do you need to?
There's the software side of things you need to learn. So aside from the 3D ones, there's a few softwares that are just specifically for XR. And then after that, you need to learn the hardware. You need to have the hardware to execute it. So if you're doing VR, you need maybe the Oculus because it's the most affordable VR headset. Okay. Or if it's AR, you need to have a smartphone that isn't too old and can have the capacity to handle modern interactive AR designs and or AR applications. Yeah.
So there isn't any coding in between?
It depends on how ambitious your project is, but more often than not, in VR, chances are very high you'd need coding skills, but in AR, not so much, unless it's really ambitious. Yeah.
Oh, okay. VR. Okay. Okay. Now, my next question is I lost my track. Okay. Okay. How do you envision the VR world being in a few years' time? There's a lot to say.
Yeah, there's so much to say, and there's so much to do. The potential is immense. It's immense. It's even not just in VR. It's in AR and it's in mixed reality as well. So in a more in-depth method, it also offers a better way to interact with information and knowledge, and also in some cases even heritage. For example, it doesn't have necessarily to be with objects in national museums or international museums or foreign museums. It could even be something as subtle as digitizing an object located in Kisumu to display to the audience in Nairobi, so that they don't have to go all the way. Because I remember growing up, like in primary, you always had this 1 year trip. right? And you get to visit either it's Fort Jesus or go to Lake Nakuru and stuff. And it was always a very rushed experience because you're so many people, there's not enough time, you just rush through as you go out, go see something else. So it could be a potential solution to that as well.
You know, the time Black Rhino had this opening, I think that you said it's their last SWATA 3.
Yeah, the one that happened last year. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was doing my research in order to apply for that opening, I was learning more about the future of XR and its benefits and impact. When I was researching about it, I didn't think it's something that's already happening or is going to happen in the near future. Now that you're saying it, it's already happening. Like it's.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed because wow, time is moving so fast.
Yeah.
And wow, it's just impressive, honestly. Okay, so what are your plans for Team 2 Interactive, and what upcoming projects do you have?
Considering the recent success we've had with collaborations, we are going to double down on that. It's a lot of collaborations with multidisciplinary artists or just unconventional artists who haven't been in it or delved into the digital space yet, just to find a new way to tell stories in an interactive setting. So it's not like you're watching a movie, but an interactive narrative.
Right.
Yeah, so that would take the shape in a lot of things. There is VR games, definitely, and there is also traditional games that you could play on your mobile phone or on your PC.
Okay.
Yeah, and hopefully on console as well. Yeah.
On console, that's
On Xbox or PlayStation as well.
I thought okay, never mind. Never mind. All right, now I wanted to ask: there's mixed reality, that's VR and AR?
Yes.
Is it possible to merge the two into something? Is it possible to have VR and AR together?
Yes, definitely.
Give me an example of that.
The biggest hindrance was hardware, having a hardware that can do that. Meta Quest 3 has done that so well.
Okay.
Yeah, so what happens is you don't have to completely block your vision. So like in our heritage project, once you wear the VR headset, your whole vision is obscured by this digital environment. So what mixed reality can do for us is you could be in a room like this, and you could just have virtual objects pop up around the environment. So as I'm talking to you now, I could just grab it and show it to you as long as you're wearing the same headset as I am. And then you could see what I'm talking about without disrupting your immersion to the real world.
If I'm wearing a headset?
Yes.
And you're not wearing
No, if you're wearing and I'm wearing a headset, we both are wearing a headset. Yeah. So we could like see the same virtual environment together and interact with it together as we still interact with the real world itself. It merges the two so that instead of using a virtual environment, like let's say a virtual Kamba village, we can actually go and do the podcast or the talk in a Kamba village. But it will have the added advantage of the digital assets will be there to anyone either who has a mobile phone with the AR enabled or who has the headset.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So what will you tell someone who wants to get into this space? First answer that.
Okay. To someone new who's getting into this space, a lot of research, a lot of reading, and it combines art and technology. So there's going to be a lot of R&D, a lot of research and development before you actually get something working. But the more you do it, the more you practice, the better you get at it, and the better your products will become.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now, the next question I wanted to ask is, now that this is already, people are already adopting XR technologies, do you think it's something that schools are going to adopt in the curriculum?
Yes, but there's still a few roadblocks that we'll overcome. Yeah, both on the artist side, on our side, the developers, and the hardware side and also the consumer, which would be the schools. So once they know what the technology can do, what it can offer, it's translating the information they have in schools, either in textbooks or stories, into a format that they can understand and the students can understand. Yeah. So we still have a way to go.
Okay, I think from where you're sitting or from what you're saying, your main goal mostly is to use extended reality to educate people. You're using it as a platform for people to learn, say, things to do with cultural artifacts, things to do with Kenyan history. I think that's what you're trying to do.
It's a bit of learning and entertainment and preservation.
Preservation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the digitization of those artifacts, they won't only be accessible in VR because it's not like something we own. It's not owned by Team 2. It's something that belongs to Kenyans. It's our history. So we are working on a database where you could have access to the 3D files and learn from it, iterate from it, build something with it, just own it as part of your history.
And what do you think these partnerships, what's the impact from the international perspective? What's the impact of the partnerships you have with the people you've partnered with or the organizations you've partnered with?
Like the impact on their end. Okay, so mostly it's been translation of whatever they already have, the translation of that information, because restitution still is a problem. Please don't misunderstand the purpose of this initiative with the heritage one. It's not meant to replace restitution. We still want our objects back. We still need them back. But because it's a bureaucratic process that takes a long time, if we don't find a middle ground to talk about it or do something with it, a lot of people or a lot of generations are going to end up forgetting or even not caring about it.
Yeah.
So the advantage on their end is they see there is how do I say this? There is a need. They see Africans are curious. We still want our heritage. We are adamant, we are loud, and we are really driven by our, what's it called? By wanting to know our history and our heritage more. Yeah.
All right. I think from what you said, and also from your initiative, I feel like continuing to do that, you'll bring this knowledge of our cultural heritage, our cultural artifacts, and our history. You'll bring it closer to us, people who say maybe don't have that opportunity to hold the artifacts themselves or visit a certain location to learn about a specific cultural history or leader. So I feel like you're bringing that information close and a bit nisemeaje, nearer to the audience, so they can learn about it at any time they want, or they can interact with the artifacts themselves anytime they want. So that's really interesting. There's so much coming into my mind, so I'm learning so much from what you're saying, and it's quite interesting. And also, I came to learn that this VR and AR technologies, it's not something that started recently. It's something that has been developing from years back. I think still 1930s or something.
Yeah, even as an idea.
As an idea, yeah. So they've been developing it pole to what we have now, the Oculus sets.
Yes, Oculus VR sets.
Yeah. So from that advancement, how do you envision VR being? Because I think also Facebook has already introduced those
the Ray-Bans.
Yeah. So I think they also size inaenda ikipungua.
Yeah.
So maybe in years time itakuwa lenses or something.
Definitely. I don't think there's a choice, because it's it's like a hardware race in a way. You have to have a bit kidogo context. So the best comparison would be like with personal computers, how they started. Like computers that were so huge, they could barely fit in a room. They slowly got smaller and smaller from big desktops with big monitors, went to laptops, tablets. Now we have mobile phones, smartwatches. So it boils down to a few things. First off, there needs to be a need. We need to embrace it and believe in it, because it's right now, yes, it does have potential right now, but the biggest potential is what it could do in the future. Because now, as it gets smaller and smaller to a point where all that technology could fit into a pair of glasses, with all that processing power, information, and the things it could do would be really, really amazing. Once you see like how people are solving problems with it, there's some problems we don't have a way to solve if you're not using VR. Like it's a proper tool to solve very specific problems.
True. Yeah. And there have been so many conversations recently on the impact of technology on the current generation. So will you say that extended reality is okay? The conversation is this: the digital world is pulling us away from reality, and now bringing in virtual reality it's building up on that issue. So will you say that will be an issue, Ama? What do you feel about that?
I feel, okay, first off, I'll have to say everything in moderation, first off. Second, pegged on history, we tend to fear a lot when it comes to drastic change. So, for example, like when films become like a standard staple, there was always a demonic version of it. When video games became common, there was always a demonic version of it. I don't know if you remember it was in the 90s, I think, when, what was this? It was called, the company that made Mortal Kombat was taken to court because of the amount of blood that was in their video game. And it set a precedent because the argument was it was teaching children how to be violent and become violent. But when universities actually did proper research, took the numbers, that wasn't the case. It was just a fear parents have or had, I'd say. So I think it's the same when it comes to technology. Yes, in moderation, it does have a chance to become toxic in the future, but with moderation, I believe it has a proper place. Yeah.
I like how you answered that. I didn't think it's a really good answer. Everything in moderation. This has really been, this conversation has opened my mind to so many things. There's so much going on in the XR environment where I think the aim is to build an interactive world where people can interact with the digital world, which is mind blowing. I think I recently sent you a link on how people can use this interactive world to market themselves. So there's also an opportunity for businesses to tap into that and see how maybe it can benefit them.
Yeah, right. Even from a commercial perspective, to people who are selling products in advertising, even in fashion, it's so diverse. What we realized was, okay, so we thought we were ambitious with the Heritage Project. So Gote Kenya introduced us to a group in Kigali from the Kuru Art Space. The founders are called Kanda and Melissa. So they once they heard about the Heritage Project, we got into a call and started discussing on what everyone was doing. They were doing the same, but with Rwandan heritage. And they introduced to me a colleague of theirs called Chidi, who was from Nigeria. He was also doing the same with the Benin bronzes. Okay. So we came up with an idea of, let's just make a virtual environment that can encompass not just Kenyan, Rwanda, or Nigerian, but all of us together. So we developed the Milele Museum. So what this was, each country was responsible for choosing one artifact and one community to represent that artifact. So what we did was, like for Kenya's side, we picked Kikuyu, and then we put a shield called the Ndume shield. That was a ceremonial shield. And then the Rwanda did the same, and Nigeria did the same with the Benin bronze. And then it was a VR experience as well. And we are also putting it to web. So the thing, as we have 32,000 objects just by ourselves, now the ambition is to do the same with Rwanda and Nigeria, and even more recently, we are working with Sudan to digitize some of the unknown pyramids as well, photogrammetry still. Okay. So it's becoming more ambitious. As if that wasn't enough, we even incorporated language into it. So I think it's the first Kikuyu game, if I'm not wrong. It's the first game in the world that has Kikuyu in it. So there's a stranger you can approach, he'll speak to you in Kikuyu, he'll tell you to go get a fruit called matomoko. You get it, you bring it back, and he'll tell you how it was used, the medicinal purposes, etc. So we thought we were ambitious. This one has language, artifacts, plants, and buildings. So yeah.
The buildings, the whole environment is not modern.
No, it's traditional. So like for the Kikuyu side, it was the traditional huts. Same for the Rwandan side and the Benin walls on the Nigerian side. Yeah.
Hey, I'm impressed.
A lot of collaboration. Big projects seem doable.
It does so much. Yeah. So from these projects that you've been working on, do you... you can't be having all that knowledge to Hivo. Do you go to do some research, or how do you get all that knowledge to create something like that?
Okay, the technical expertise we do have. What we really lack is the context that goes to history, mythology, the objects, artifacts, etc. So once we have the objects, there's a lot of legwork that needs to be done. So we walk around with microphones, recording people, taking interviews, and then doing like a comparative analysis on the information we get to try and get as accurate information as we can. And then now we translate that information into our experiences, maybe in an entertaining way, kidogo. Yeah.
So you don't go to where those Kikuyu leaders are, you talk to them. Do you do that?
Yes. It depends on a few things. How accessible they are, and the value of information they can give. Because as we try to compare a lot, so we'll go to the ground and get information from people. The older the better, because the more legitimate that their story is. And then there's lecturers and education, where people have spent a lot of their life just learning about this, why, what, and where. So you can combine the both, and you get like the best or the most accurate version of the information.
Wow, I'm glad to have met you today. This has really been an amazing conversation. I've learned so much, and I'm glad that you made the time to be here and share your knowledge. I'm glad there's so much you're doing on your side, and I'm glad to see that the XR and game development industry is okay. We are doing something. Most people don't really know that that industry is there and it's doing amazing things. Yeah. And I think from that conversation, I've come to understand that there's a lot happening on that side.
Yeah.
And I think, people should be open-minded to this and start adopting it, because I feel like that's where we are headed at currently. I don't think it's something that itakuja then ipote.
Not really.
Yeah,
Not
it won't happen.
Yeah.
So people should start adopting this. I think that's it. I had some questions. I don't have so many questions today. Aside just from the conversation, I had some trivia questions, but they're kind of easy.
Okay.
Okay, let me just find them. Okay, this is also open to the audience.
Okay.
This is okay.
All right. Okay. What got me into VR and game development? First off, I have a passion for games. I really love games. While I was a kid, we used to visit a lot of our neighbors to play the really, really old consoles. We actually started gaming even before Windows had an interface, when it was just DOS, you know? Yeah, so you just like run dev2d.exe.
What?
So way back, yeah.
Which year was that? Around which year?
90s. Yeah, early 90s. From there, we Nintendo console when they were coming out, the Sega Mega Drives, PlayStation 1, also the way. But what really pushed me was when I first played a franchise called Assassin's Creed. So what they did was they would go to like Venice in Italy. They do a lot of cultural research on how it used to be maybe in the 1800s. And then they'd bring it to life with such accuracy that as much as you're getting entertained, you get to learn a few things. You even get to learn the language, which was weirdly enough. As someone is giving you a mission, they'd slip in a few Italian words and they'd end up sticking, you know. So they did that with a lot of their games. So which brought me to wonder, why can't we do that? We could do, it's the same. You could like just teach people about their history, their culture, and the important aspects of them as they entertain themselves. Yeah.
Okay. So I get that's where you got your inspiration from to use Kenyan language, what are they called? Native languages to maybe communicate within a game.
Yes.
The next question was?
The next question, sorry, I can't remember the next question. Or where to get the games. Okay. Our games are divided into two categories. There are personal IPs, and then there are IPs we develop for some of our clients. So most of them, both ours and our clients, are still behind closed doors, only accessible in exhibitions. But for some of ours, we are either they're going to be on platforms like gwaseach.io, and most of them, they are still either in development, looking to go into the next step of publishing. And some of them, like the Heritage Project, we are working on a web version that doesn't require you to have a headset to access. So hopefully in the next about 4 months or 5 months, you're going to have access to the whole Heritage experience on your smart devices, on your phone, smart TV, or whatever. Yeah.
But that won't be VR. That will just be...
Yeah, that will be on your smart device, but it won't have a compromise on quality or performance. It mainly depends on the speed of your internet because it's going to be streaming live. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned something. Just remind me. Let me just go back, kidogo. Remind me how you, because you're taking high resolution images from the AI.
Yeah.
I don't know which one to use.
Yeah.
So remind me how you are reducing that file size to be able to be used on virtual reality.
Okay, in 3D, there is a terminology called polycount. It's like the amount of pixels, to put it mildly, your 3D object has. So for example, when the objects come, when they are raw, they have about 3 million pixels. That is really, really high. So it's like having a 12K resolution video and you're trying to make a 1080p video. So you really have to reduce it. So for video, it would be simple. You just convert it. It's not the same with 3D. So the software I use is called ZBrush. So you have to noodle with the object a bit, clean it up a bit, close a few of the holes, make it look clean, and then without compromising on the quality, because that's the key thing. It has to look as close to the original as possible. But so we have two versions of everything. We have an optimized version for interactive experiences and a high resolution version just to view and appreciate.
Oh, okay. So you said it's just reducing the poly count.
Yeah, the poly count. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move to the trivia session. I don't have so many questions. I know you. When I ask you this question, you give me the date, the month, and the year. It's really easy. When did Kenya become independent?
1963.
month and date.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
12th December.
12th December.
All right. Audience, help me. Kapenguria 6. Kapenguria 6. Give me names of people walikuwa in the Kapenguria 6. Do you know any?
SOS. Help. Kapenguria 6.
All right. Seems like we don't know history. Auntie? Jomo
Jomo
Kenyatta hakuwa Kapenguria 6. Oh wait, yeah, alikuwa pole.
Wow, okay.
Nani mwingine? Fred Kubai. Kuna mtu amesema Fred Kubai.
Okay.
Huh? Oh yeah, Karumba, yeah. Nani? Oh yeah, Ochieng Oneko. Kuna mwenye amebaki? Yeah, Paul Kigei, yeah. Ngei, yes. Okay, good. The last question.
Yeah.
How many countries does Kenya border? And if you ukisema how many unipatie the specific countries?
Tanzania, Uganda, Somali.
Umesaidiwa. Yeah, that's correct. It's South Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia, TZ, and Uganda. Yes. All right, thank you so much for joining us. This has been The Creative Scene. Today we are at the Kesho Afrika Festival brought to you by Karakana. Thank you so much, Brian, for your time. Thank you, audience, for participating and listening. Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
News?
Oh, the videos.
Okay. This is some of Brian's work.
That's a game.
That was a game.
Oh, okay. So this is a game we are working on with my partner, hopefully to launch on PC and Xbox in the next 1 year. It's called The Mara Witch. It's the story of an orphan boy trying to find his way in a fantasy but yet cultural setting. You get to travel 5 maps based on 5 different Kenyan communities. So you'll get immersed in traditional music, traditional lore, and awesome combat. So you can have fun as you learn. It's been, I think, about more than a year, actually, almost bordering on 2 years in development right now.
In development?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's the second IP we developed as a studio after the Heritage Project. This was part of the Milele. This is the Kikuyu speaking character. So much fun working on this.
Do you use motion capture?
Yes, but not. It's an expensive method, so we've used it, I think, twice on our project. So the one we've used most extensively was in the project we exhibited in France. We partnered with Stanley Masinde, who has a motion capture suit, and he helped us capture a lot of the movements.
So it uses sensors?
Yes, a ton of sensors. This is the one I was talking about, with the VR experience that teaches people how to communicate in KSL specifically. So that's my partner Ian, as we were trying to work out the hand tracking system at the Out Reality space at Black Rhino. This is the restaurant setting where you get to order something and see if you get it correctly, and the waiter will serve it to you. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It's interesting. We really learned a lot of the KSL alphabet just by developing it.
So for that, do you use gloves or you use the VR?
No. VR has cameras, really good cameras, like about 4 of them in the interface, so it can recognize your hand motions, like your finger tracking. It can actually track your fingers. So when you actually do the sign, it will track the fingers and recognize from the database we've built what that sign means.
Without wearing anything?
Yeah, without wearing anything, just your hands.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's really been interesting. Yeah, that's been the 9th episode of the Creative Scene. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Brian, for joining us, and keep doing what it is you're doing. Yeah.
Of course, karibu sana. It was my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, asante sana. Let's appreciate them one more time with some energy.